Hi guys, my name is Andy Osborne. I'm from FXT Fitness and CrossFit Leicester. I'm here with the Virtual Village Hall to present just a little bit of a talk about the importance of exercise. So as you know, this is Men's Health Week at the Virtual Village Hall. So it's going to be directed specifically to men over the age of 40, okay, and the importance of exercise for men over the age of 40. So first of all, I just want to start off with telling you a bit about myself, a bit about my background and where I'm coming from. So I have been in the fitness industry for maybe 20 plus years. Yeah, too many to be counting right now. But yeah, I've been in fitness industry for about 20 years. And the thing that I get a lot is people come up to me and they say, "Oh, it's okay for you. You're fit. You're healthy. Blah blah blah." But I just want to explain to you, it hasn't always been that way for me. When I was younger, when I was in school, I was quite fit, and obviously in all the teams, football and rugby and all that type of stuff. I was quite talented at athletics, and I was chosen to train for the Olympics back in the 90s and that type of stuff. But as you get older, you discover there's lots of things in life that are quite tempting. So by the time I was in my mid-teens, I'd sort of gone off that path and found drinking and smoking and partying and all that type of stuff. And I was probably drinking and partying for a good 10 odd years. So it wasn't until I was in my late 20s before I found fitness again. So I actually had quite a period of time where I was just bumming around, smoking, drinking, and partying, sort of thing, you know. So I do know what it's like to be unfit. I have been on the other side. I haven't always been fit. I've had to work for my fitness. So just to give you a bit of a background, so when you get to an age where you feel, you're feeling like crap, and you need to. You want to make some changes. I mean, it might not happen for everybody, but for me, I got to a certain stage where I felt I needed to make some changes in my life. So I turned to health and fitness, and that's where I am today. I got qualified as a personal trainer. I started doing classes, and eventually where I am today is I teach. I own a couple of gyms here in Leicester, CrossFit Leicester, as you can see on here, CrossFit. And I also have another gym called FXT Fitness, which we tailor for the less competitive people, more simpler exercises. CrossFit can be a bit more competitive. Having said that, it is accessible to all abilities as well. So just give you a bit more background. So I'm speaking from my own experience. So I'm 54 now, and as I've got older, I don't feel much older. I still feel like I'm in my 30s because I feel, and I attribute that down to my health and fitness regime, and obviously the exercise primarily. But obviously, I don't want to just speak from my own experience. So I've done a little bit of research for this little bit of a talk to find a few things that will actually back up, and some proper empirical evidence that proves that exercise is important and the effects that exercise have on the body, especially for men over the age of 40. Because obviously, we have the aging process. We can't stop the aging process, but I truly believe, and the evidence from the research I've seen does back that up, that you can slow that right down. So I'm going to start off by talking about what actually happens to the body as we get older, that aging process. And again, as I say, I'm focusing on men because this is Men's Week, Men's Health Week here at the Virtual Village Hall. So I'm going to be focusing on men. And from the research that I've done, is the aging process starts from as young as 20 to 25. So at the age of about 20 to 25, we start to actually start a very gradual decline in our health and fitness. Now, from the research that I've done, we're talking about the average general Joe blogs that doesn't do any fitness, just doing their everyday business, don't have any fitness regime at all. So your fitness level starts to decline at about 25. So from my research here, from that age group, this is the stats. I'm going to read this to you. It's the, hold on 2 seconds. I've got to get that door. 2 seconds. Sorry about that, guys. So where was I? So wanted to tell you about the start of the aging process. Let's say starting from as young as 25 to 30 years old. So the heart rate. Okay, so your maximum heart rate drops 1 beat per minute every year from as young as 25 to 30. Okay, so that's your maximum heart rate. That's the ability for your heart to be the rate your maximum heart rate can be. Okay, so that drops 1 beat per minute per year. Okay, your maximum capacity to pump blood around the body drops by 5 to 10% every 10 years. So to put that in perspective, a 25-year-old can pump around 2.5 liters of blood around the body every minute. By the time you reach 65, that drops down to around 1.5 liters of blood around the body per minute. By the time you reach 85, that drops down to just below a liter of blood around the body every minute. So that just shows you the gradual decline in the ability to pump blood around the body. That has a direct relationship to your ability to do things without getting out of breath. So when you see older people walking down the street and having to go really slow because obviously the heart rate, they have to go with the heart rates. Obviously, if they go too fast, they're going to get out of breath. They're going to have to stop. You know, people when they're walking uphill, getting out of breath because their body can't physically pump around enough blood to the muscles, provide the muscles with enough oxygen so they can go up that hill either without stopping or getting out of breath. So that has a direct relationship to that. Other things that will happen once we hit middle age, we tend to get that middle age spread, which I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with. So that middle age spread, that is attributed to an increase in body fat. Okay, so metabolism starts to slow down, so then you end up adding a bit of weight on. Okay, other things that will happen is your blood will tend to thicken, it gets more viscous, as they say, so it's harder to pump around the body. Your blood pressure tends to go up, your good cholesterol tends to drop down, the bad cholesterol tends to go up. This has a direct relationship to our blood sugar levels as well, so our blood sugar levels tend to go up as well. So in reality, what that tends to do is you're more prone to getting things like diabetes. So when we're older, we're more prone to that type of thing because of these changes in our body. Okay. Other things that happen in the body is our muscle mass. Our muscle mass tends to decline as we get older. Okay. We can lose up to 50% of our muscle mass by the time we reach 80. Okay. Now, this again, remember, this is for people that don't train. All right. The other thing that happens is our bone density. Our bone density decreases as we get older. Again, if you don't do anything to combat that. Other things that happen for men from the age of about 40, you lose 1% of your testosterone. Okay, so testosterone is like a hormone, a sex hormone for the male. We need this testosterone for helping to build muscle and to increase our bone density. So when that starts to drop, it has direct effects to that as well. Okay, so it's a very important hormone that we need, and that tends to drop, as I say, at least 1% every year from the age of 40. Okay, the nervous system has an effect on the nervous system. So like our coordination isn't as good as we get older, and also our reaction time tends to be less as well. Okay, and also has an effect on our brain function. We get a little bit slower, forgetful, and that type of stuff. And if any of us have got elderly parents or know any other people, we see this, on a regular basis. I mean, I've got an older, obviously older. My mum is elderly, and I can see all this in her. Okay, so obviously we're talking about men, but it happens to women as well. But we're going to focus on the men's side as well. Okay, so all this information just to give you an idea of what happens to us as men as we start to age and as the aging process starts to go. So it sounds pretty grim, all right? So, but I just wanted to give you a clear idea of what goes on. But there is hope, because exercise can actually have a big impact and really slow down this aging process. Obviously, we can't stop the aging process, but by adding exercise into our daily regime, it can make a big difference to the quality of your life, your vitality, and obviously your longevity of life. Okay, so this is what I want to be talking about today. We're going to go back into um, breaking these different types of exercises down and what the different types of exercises do for you and what effect they have on your body. So there was a study, another bit of my research that I've been doing. There's a study that they did. It was called the Dallas Bed Rest and Training Study. Now, this was a study they did in 1966, where they took five healthy 20-year-old men. Okay, they took five 20 healthy men and they made them rest for 3 weeks, bed rest for 3 weeks. Okay, so they thought this was a good gig, you know what I mean? So, yeah, come on, we'll pay you to just chill out, have bed rest 3 weeks. Okay, so they took all their stats and all their vitals beforehand, and then after the 3 weeks, they retested them and took all their vitals afterwards. And they were amazed at the differences from the before and after stats. So some of the stats here. So after the 3 weeks, they had a faster resting heart rate. So obviously, resting heart rate is a good indication as to how fit you are. So obviously, the lower it is, the fitter you tend to be. So they had faster resting heart rates. Their blood pressure had gone up. Their ability to maximum pump blood around the body, which you mentioned earlier, that had gone down. Their body fat had gone up, and they also had a decrease in strength. Now, this was just after 3 weeks. Okay, so what they're showing there and what that study proved was with that lack of activity, how quickly the body can deteriorate if you're not being active on a regular basis. Okay, and this was fit 20-year-olds. Okay, the study didn't stop there. So after they did that, they continued then to give them an 8-week training program, which they went on. And then after those 8 weeks, they reevaluated them, retested them to see what sort of impact that had on them. So after the 8 weeks, when they retested them, they found that all their stats had improved, but more so, not just improved, but they had surpassed what they were when they first initially took their tests. So that just goes to show how the amazing benefits of that exercise actually had for them. So not only did their body fat go down, their resting heart rates went down, their blood pressure went down. All this was affected by the training they did just over 8 weeks. Okay. Now, from this study, this study is a well-known study which has had an impact on hospitals. So obviously when they have people having bed rest, being ill, having operations and that is why they try and get them to be as active as soon as possible. And they found that if they extend that bed rest, it will prolong their recovery. So they'll try and get them as active and moving around as quickly as possible. Also, it's had an impact on how they treat astronauts, because they found when the astronauts go into space, they're obviously without the lack of gravity and stuff, they have to then still find a way of training so that they can still maintain their muscle mass and keep all their vitals well. Okay, so this research, this Dallas research, didn't stop there, because what they did then was they invited those same 5 individuals back after 30 years. So what they wanted to do was to reassess them after 30 years, just to see what the 30 years of aging, what effect it had on their body from their tests that they did when they were in their 20s and up to now they're in their 50s. Okay, so they reassessed them again when they're in their 50s. Now the results from that, obviously they weren't on any fitness regimes, they were just going about their general business. None of them were doing training or anything like that. So those same original subjects, 5 of those men, they found that on average they'd put on about 25% body fat. Okay, so they'd all increased body fat. Their cardiovascular function had suffered. Their resting heart rate, again, had gone up. Their blood pressure had gone up. And their ability to pump blood around the body had dropped down. Okay, so this wasn't unexpected. Obviously, we know we have the aging process, but they wanted to assess them to see how much of a change they made over that 30 years. Okay, so then what they did was they gave them another fitness training program. This time it was a just cardiovascular and endurance training program, which lasted over 6 months. And it was very gradual, increasing up over the 6 months. Okay, and again, we assessed them afterwards. And what they found was really amazing. What they found was that their stats were as good as they were when they were in their 20s. Now, not after the 8-week program, but when they initially had their first baseline assessments. They had gone back to as good as that. So that was just after 6 months of training. So again, this was just proving how much and the effects that cardiovascular training has, or aerobic training, or their class as endurance training, on the body, on all those vitals. So blood pressure, resting heart rate, your ability to pump blood around the body, all these vital things that keep us alive. So when we're talking about the cardiovascular system, we're talking about the heart, we're talking about the veins, we're talking about your arteries and capillaries, your ability to function and get blood around the body, get oxygen around the body to the muscles that are needed. So from this study, as I say, was a lot of stuff was proven from this study, and this makes me think to you guys, when you're doing your training, you need to incorporate some sort of cardiovascular, some sort of endurance training. And it's very simple to see what effects that actually has. But when we're talking about fitness, there are different elements of fitness, and different types of fitness have different effects on the body. So we're talking about strength now. Strength is a different type of fitness. So cardiovascular fitness is great, but what we tend to find is when people train, some people favor one exercise or one type of modality over another, whereas really we want to be keeping our training well-rounded, so we're covering the different elements of fitness so that we can benefit from all those different elements. Now, as we said earlier, for men, especially over the age of 40, a decline in muscle mass starts. Okay, so with that lack of testosterone, that's ticking away, that's getting less. So we need to make sure that we maintain our strength. So it's very important that we have a strength training program of some type, because that strength training has been proven that from strength training, it actually helps to maintain our testosterone levels. That will also help us with our bone density and also help us to maintain and improve our muscle mass. Okay, again, studies that have been done for muscle mass, another study that was done, they tested 8,000 men with an average age of 54. So they tested them simply for grip strength, because your grip strength is meant to give you an overall idea of what your general strength is. So they tested 8,000 men grip strength, and then they retested them again after 25 years. So after 25 years, so you say the average age was 54 when they first were tested. So now you're talking, they're in their 70s to 90s, some of them were. Sadly, there was probably about 36% of those gentlemen had passed away. But from the ones that survived, they assessed them again, and they found that those that were stronger in their middle age had fared a lot better than those that were weaker. So the ones that were stronger, they found that they were less frail, they were less dependent on other people, and they were a lot more agile than those that were weaker. So the conclusion from that study is that the stronger you are, the fitter you are, that if you're doing strength training, that's going to help you with your functional movement, so your skeletal movement. Okay, so it's very important to make sure you don't just do cardio, but you have some strength work in there to get the benefits from your strength work, your testosterone levels, your bone density, which increases, and just your general function in life, getting around from A to B, being agile, and that type of thing. Okay, so the other elements of training or fitness or general exercise that you might want to be considering, or you should be considering, is flexibility. So again, flexibility is one of these things that get overlooked quite a bit. Now, flexibility, by the time we get to the end of a training session, most people are like so tired they don't want to do anymore. So it's like, last bit's done and they're out the door. Okay, so it's very important to spend a little bit of time or save a bit of time at the end of your training session to focus on a little bit of flexibility work. So what flexibility work will do for you, it will help you to maintain your range of movements. It can also, in conjunction with strength work, help you with your posture. So in daily life these days, we spend a lot of time hunching over. If you look at older people, elderly people, a condition that a lot of them suffer from is what we call kyphosis, where you have this big hunch over, shoulders are rounded, and that type of thing. Now, this is caused from what we do every day. Okay, so driving cars, on the phone, eating food, watching TV, the way we sit, all this stuff has an effect on our posture. So with flexibility though and strength work in conjunction with each other, that can help us to stave off that hunch in the back and also help to correct it as well. So flexibility work is a very important thing that you should be incorporating. After you've done your training, you want to be stretching your muscles back to their normal pre-workout length. And if you feel that you need to be more flexible in a certain area, then you should be practicing and doing something to do that. Spending a bit more time holding your stretches. Another thing you can do is take up yoga. Yoga is another type of exercise which you can use to help with your flexibility. It's not the only benefit yoga has. Yoga has lots of other benefits as well, but on the flexibility side, that is one benefit that you can take away from that as well. Another area is your balance. Okay, so balance. Again, when we think about exercise, as I say, people tend to think of strength and cardio, but they forget all these other elements that can help you. So your balance is very important, especially as you get older. One thing elderly people are prone to is trips and falls. So when you trip and fall, if you break a bone or what have you, you tend to have to rest up a little bit. And as we know from the studies that I mentioned earlier, bed rest is not good for you because obviously if you're resting in bed, you're not active and that can make everything else decline. So we want to make sure that our balance is good so that if we have a trip, we can actually save ourselves. Okay, that together with strength work will help us to stay more stable. So balance work, dead simple things you can do for your balance work. Standing on one leg. It's something dead simple. You can do it anywhere. You haven't got to get your gym kit on. Just standing on one leg. If you can do that, great. Then you want to take it to the next level. Standing on one leg on uneven ground or with your arms out or standing on one leg and try and move your upper body and still maintain balance. Okay. So you want to be aiming to do that for 20 to 30 seconds on each leg. And again, if that's not a problem for you, the other thing you can do is stand on one leg and close your eyes. Okay. So when we lose our vision, it's a lot harder for us to balance. So then we have to focus more on our proprioception, that our muscles that switch on automatically. We have to focus more on those. And also when we do that, we get more responsive when we try and balance without the use of our eyes. So you can try this at any time, standing on one leg, close your eyes. If you can do, you want to be looking at aiming to do 20 seconds as a minimum. If you can do 20 seconds, that's all good. Build it up to 30 if you can, but your test will be to pass the test, you need to be able to do 20 seconds with your eyes closed. Do one leg and then do the other leg. Okay, guys, so balance, again, another important thing. And a few other things that exercise in general will help you to stave off is chronic illnesses. So again, I've got a list of things here. I don't want to sound too depressive or anything, but these are the things that will help general exercise will help to stave off is hypertension, diabetes, osteoporosis, Alzheimer's, gallbladder attacks, and they say there's a 30% reduction in the risk of being impotent as well. Okay, so you've got lots of things to motivate you to add training, exercise, physical movement into your daily regime. Okay, so as we get older, as I say, things start to slow down and what have you. So by combating that with your physical fitness of some description, it's going to help to combat all those things. Okay, so again, the other thing I tend to find is as people get older, because I do personal training and I train some older people, and sometimes you find not so much the people that I train because obviously they have a different mentality, but something that comes out a lot in older people is that, oh, I'm too old to do that, or I'm getting too old for this. So this is a mentality which really you want to stay away from as much as you can, because it's never too late. Again, studies have been shown that men in their 80s are just as receptive to exercise as men in their 20s. So don't think that you're too old to do anything. As long as you're starting at the right level, there's no reason why you can't start gradual and gradually build up, and it will definitely have a difference in the quality of your life by doing so. Okay, So never too late. The old saying is, if you don't use it, you will lose it. And that is very important. And it is actually the truth, because obviously, if you don't train, your ability to do certain things will disappear because your body has no reason to do them anymore. Okay. So that's why that bed rest was so detrimental to those guys' health, even though they were only in their 20s, because the body's like, well, we don't need to do anything. So we're not going to. So that when it came to doing something, they forgot how to do it. Muscle memory is another thing that you need to remember. Okay, so I want to touch on a few other things. Obviously, the importance of exercise is very important, but and all the benefits are all good, but it will be more potent if you add a few other things alongside the exercise to help with your vitality and your ability to function in everyday life and keep yourself looking young, feeling good, and all the rest of it. So, couple of things. Number one, I would say avoid smoking. Okay, smoking is not good. Everybody knows it. Everyone knows the risks, all the rest of it. So avoid smoking if you can. That's going to be very detrimental to your health. Balanced diet. Okay, make sure you're having a balanced diet. Okay, getting your fats, your proteins, and your carbohydrates. If you're not sure about that, find someone who you can go to get some nutrition advice. Again, your nutrition along with the exercise, very, very important. Okay. Consider having supplements. There may be some things that you're lacking in your diet that you can't get from your diet. Then you might need to take in about, maybe have a daily supplement or a specific supplement that help you along the way. If you drink, then drink responsibly. Don't overdrink. Don't be getting drunk all the time. Don't be drinking every day. Again, these are other things that are going to help you alongside the exercise, because at the end of the day, you can't out train a bad diet. Okay. Exercise is great, but exercise on its own is not going to be as effective if you're shoveling down a load of junk food every night. Okay. So that's another thing. Make sure you're getting some sleep and rest. So obviously, sleep and rest is very important, because if you haven't slept, then you're not going to be as energized, and you're not going to have the ability to train at your optimum the next day. Now, when I'm talking about training, I don't want you to think you've got to join the gym to train, because you don't. Training and longevity can be something as simple as going for a walk 30 minutes a day every day. Okay. That, if you're not doing that sort of thing, that's a great place to start. Always start off nice and easy, get yourself into a routine, focus on one thing at a time, then gradually add things into your routine. Okay, this is all about habits, because what we're trying to do here is we're trying to prolong our life, and the importance of exercise is that you need to do it safely as well. Don't just go bang straight into it if you've not been doing it for a while, or haven't done it before, or you haven't done it since you were in your teens and you're now in your 40s or 50s. So you start off nice and gentle. Okay, make sure that whatever you do, have a nice rounded program. You might just start off with some cardio stuff, then add in some strength work, and then gradually build it up from there. Okay. I'm just reading a little comment here. If you haven't been exercising, how do you know what is right level to start off? Okay, so if you haven't been exercising, as I say, the best thing is to start off wherever you are comfortable. Okay, so for example, if it's cardiovascular exercise, then something as simple as walking is a good place to start. Okay, then you might want to jog. You might not want to jog because of the impact, so you might want to get on a bike. You might want to go swimming. There's so many different ways you can get the same effect from different types of exercises. So if we're just talking cardiovascular exercises, you've got swimming, running, jogging, walking, cross trainer, rowing. There's loads of different things you can do. Find something you enjoy. Find or start off with a level that you feel comfortable. Don't even think about getting out of breath or anything, and then gradually increase the level of your intensity. The other thing you can do as well is you can use one of these watches these days and monitor your heart rate, and that can give you a good guide as to how hard you're working. And when you first start working with cardio exercises, you only want to be working at about 60 to 70% of your maximum effort, if not less than that. It doesn't matter. As being active is the most important thing first and foremost. And then if you want to get into your training a bit more intense, I would suggest that you do it very, very gradually. Always just hire a personal trainer for a few sessions and then give you some guidance from there. Okay. So The other thing you need to be thinking about, guys, is when you're in this fitness regime, is building these the additional things to actually training. I said about drinking, is keeping your mind active. Okay, so keeping your mind active is very important because obviously this is where everything's controlled. Keeping your mind active helps you to keep with your memory and to help you function better along those sides of your cognitive skills and that type of thing. Okay, and also building a social network. So human beings are definitely social beings, and having that social network also helps with your well-being as well. The other thing I didn't mention is mental health. Okay, so again, exercise can also help you with your mental health. Okay, when you're doing training, depending on the intensity, it can release endorphins into the body, which will it's like our own homemade happy pill, so to speak. Okay, that's why some people get addicted to training because of the endorphins it releases into the body. But also, it can be something as simple or as easy as going for a nice little walk to help to clear your mind or what have you, have a little bit of alone time or whatever it may be. But just from the actual process of training, it will release a lot of hormones into the body, different types of hormones, which will help you to deal with stress a lot better. So, guys, in conclusion, training, physical exercise is super important as we get older. If you can incorporate it within your life, if it's only 30 minutes, 5 times a week, it will help to increase your longevity and your vitality of life. They calculated out that by increasing or including training within your life up to 30 minutes, something as simple as even walking, it can increase your lifespan by up to 2 years. And that was just done from I think it was a Harvard study that they did, and they did a calculation on that. But the other thing they have done is they've also done observations. So they've actually looked at groups of people over multiple years, tracked their activity, and that has backed the evidence found by the Harvard studies that it does increase the longevity of your life. But we don't just want longevity, we want to also have the vitality and be able to move around and what have you. So make sure that you have a nice rounded program and to incorporate all those different elements of your fitness, your strength, your cardiovascular, your flexibility, your balance, and it's going to help you across the board. So guys, I hope what I've said makes some sort of sense to you. Hopefully it's been some use to you. And yeah, that's me concluded. So importance of exercise, signing off.